Hello, I'm Corey, and today is day 16 of the 100-day project and my version, which is 6 by 6 in 6. Today, we are going to make an envelope using 6 by 6 paper with no special tools. We are memory keepers, and I'm sure others as well, make punch boards for envelopes using a variety of different sizes, big size and small. But if you don't have that, or if you don't want to use that, you can still use your 6 by 6 paper to make a fun envelope. You can use single-sided or double-sided paper. I'm using single-sided with this simply because it's easier for you to see when there's a white back. So when I show you how to make this, it's just simpler to see. So let's get started. You will need a piece of 6 by 6 paper. You will need some chipboard. You can probably do it without chipboard and just use paper, but it's a lot easier to use chipboard. And this is the template that we'll be using to create the envelope, and it measures 4 inches, which is 10.2 centimeters, by 3 3/8 inches, which is roughly 8 by 7 centimeters. And this is what we're going to use to draw around to make our template. So you'll need a piece of chipboard for that. You will need a pencil to make some guidelines, an eraser of some sort, a pair of scissors, a stylus of some sort to trace around this. Now, this is an actual stylus, and it's really old and in bad shape, but you can use whatever you've got that's pointy but not sharp, like the end of a crochet hook works real well, or these that came with the rub-ons a long time ago. You can use either end of these. That works real well. A ruler will work, but it's just a little too pointy and it's easy to tear the paper, so I don't recommend it. But if that's all you've got, that's all you've got. And you will also need a ruler, and you will need wet glue to glue down your envelope, and if you are like me, you will need some ink to ink the edges. Now, I'm not using a scoreboard for this. Remember, I said there was no specific tools required, but I am going to use the chipboard template, and then I'm going to use my quote-unquote chipboard scoreboard, and I'll show you. I've talked about it a couple times in different videos, but I'll show you what I mean by that. All right, so you've got your 6 by 6 paper. Directional paper doesn't work great for this, simply because even though we're working out with it this way, when you make the envelope, you're essentially cattywampus. So if you've got writing or something, it's really hard to get it to line up perfectly. You can, but I'm not very good at it. So I use non-directional paper. And in this particular case, it doesn't matter which way my stripes are going. So the first thing I do is I flip my paper over, and I'm doing that. Normally, I would work on the top of the paper because we fold back, but it's really hard to see it with the pencil lines, so I'm going to flip it over. And the first thing you do is you measure in 3/8 of an inch, which is approximately 1 centimeter, all the way around. Now, I'm a big fan of purple tape to hold my paper in place, but you don't have to. You can just, leave your paper on your work surface. So I'm going to use my ruler with the lines, or the grid inside of the ruler, to measure 3/8 of an inch all the way around. And I'm just going to make a light mark on my paper all the way around. So 3/8 of an inch, line it up, and mark it. Now, some people would freehand this and just guesstimate. I'm not a great guesstimator on certain things, and in this, it's a lot easier if I measure these, and then I know exactly where to put my center template when I'm done. So that's why I do it, but it doesn't take long, and once you've done it once or twice, it's pretty straightforward. Clear see-through ruler is just a handy thing to have. Okay, so I've measured 3/8 of an inch in all the way around, and then my next measurement is from whatever your top is going to be. And in this one, I don't particularly care which direction my paper goes, but you measure 2 3/4 of an inch in from the left. And you just make a little mark there. So, which is about 7 centimeters. So I'm going to use my ruler and measure in 2 3/4 of an inch, which will be right here, and then I'm just going to make a little tick mark. Let's see, can you see that without me knocking the ruler? There you go, a little tick mark at that 2 3/4 inch. And then the reason I did that is I'm going to try to move this over so you can see it a little bit better. I'm going to take my template, my chipboard template that I made, and I am going to put the point of the template on that little tick mark I made. And then I'm just going to push the template until I've got the tips, all 4 tips of my template on those 3 8-inch lines I've made. So it will look something like that. Here are my lines, and then the tips are all right on top of the edges. Okay, and then I hold that down and I use my stylus, and I don't use the super fine point because this is thin paper and it'll poke through, but I use my stylus to trace around my template, all 4 sides. And all I'm doing is making the score lines without a scoreboard. And the reason for the chipboard underneath is it's got a little bit of a give, and it gives you a surface that allows you can do it on a plain desk, but you don't get as much of a groove, and you don't always get a clean fold, which is why I use a piece of chipboard underneath. All right, so now I have got, I don't know how you can see that. See, there you go, the score lines all the way around. Okay, and then the next step I'm going to do is just fold back. Using those score lines, I am going to gently fold back my paper on all of those score lines. And I'm not giving it a sharp crease because my paper in this particular case is going the wrong way. It's not the way I want it to go. Again, I just did it so you could see the lines. All right, so I have got 4 crease lines, and you can see at the end of each point is a little triangle of paper. And you've got that on, if you folded it, you've got it on all 4 of them. And your next step is just to cut out all 4 of those triangles. And you want to cut, I'm going to bring this right in here, you want to cut right up to the point where the template ended. And that's going to give you a nice sharp corner. So you're going to cut out 4 triangles. And then you are going to use your eraser to erase whichever is going to be your top. Now you'll see here that these 2 will be the sides of my envelope, and this will be the bottom, and then this one will be the top once I fold it the other way with the pattern on the outside. So these are going to be on the inside. They're not going to show, so I'm not going to bother to erase those. The only one that'll show is whichever my top flap is. So I'm going to come in with my eraser, which is why I made a light pencil line, and I'm going to erase that that measurement that I made, that pencil line measurement. Okay. Now, if you like, the sample I made has rounded corners. I used my corner rounder. If you want pointy corners, you can absolutely leave it just like it is. But I am going to come in and round those corners. I'm going to round off 4. Okay, so my corners are rounded, and now I like to ink that. Remember, this is going to be my front or my outside, so I'm going to come in and score it at, or fold it back over at those score lines, which is going to be the inside here, and I am going to ink my edges, the edges that are going to show. So I'm going to just do that with a dry ink brush because I don't want a lot of ink, but this is going to show, so I'm going to give it a quick bit of ink. So we do that on the outside on all 4 of them. If you don't want the ink, then leave it. If you want to sew it, now's the great time to sew to give you that stitched edge if you like that look. So I've inked around all 4 of the outside pieces. And now I'm going to come in. This is going to be my top flap, the one that opens and closes. And so I'm going to ink around just this one. The others are going to be on the inside and they won't show, so it doesn't matter. Okay, next step, I'm going to fold in my side flaps, and I can crease them here, but remember I'm using thin paper, so I don't have to crease with a bone folder if I don't want to. I'm going to get a nice line. If you're using double-sided paper, use a bone folder or something to give you a crisper line. And then I'm going to come in on the edge here, and I'm going to apply my glue just to those 2 to the 2 side flaps. I am going to push this down. And you have a 6x6 envelope. Thank you for watching. I hope you learned something or got inspired to try something new in spite of, not having as many tools as you, sometimes think are necessary. I guess what I'm trying to say is I hope that I showed you that it's not necessary to have an envelope template scoreboard in order to make an envelope. Thanks for watching and have a great day. Bye.